Alright guys, getting into the long-awaited part 2 of this. Basically we're going to go over how to make a CarX map, but this time rather than just doing it on a flat ground, we're going to go over how to make it for putting it on hills, putting it on a mountainside, whatever you want to do. It can be as steep as you want, it can be as, level and flat as you want. So let's go ahead and get this started. Little note to know, this has to be 3.6. I believe I'm on 3.6.5 Blender. For whatever reason, it doesn't really work well with 4.0 and higher. I'll have a link in the description on where to download Blender 3.6.5. Like I said, this is part 2, so I'm not really going to spend a whole lot of time going over what we went over in the first video. If you've never made a map, I would suggest starting there to get some basics and stuff. Though this is kind of unrelated because we're going to go over a different way to make roads and stuff. We're not going to make it the same way we did in the last video. But the main thing that we cover in part 1 is how to get this. You will need this for getting ready to export this and everything. This is the CarX mod tool. Basically allows us to put in a spawn and stuff, and change the physics materials. So make sure you grab that. Again, the link will be in the description for you to download that. And without further ado, let's get into this. So step 1 here, I'm going to say let's go to our view and make sure our end is way up there because working with CarX maps, we have to make them a little bigger. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to go ahead and we're going to make our road real quick. So Shift A, mesh, we'll make a plane real quick. I'm going to scale this by going to item, and we'll go to our Y, and we'll make this 4.5. Make this a little wider, so now we have the width of a road that we'll need for CarX. I'm going to press tab, then I'm going to press U so I can unwrap this. Drag this up. Now, I'm going to have a link to download some of my my texture folder that I personally use, just so you guys can have the same textures I have. But if you don't like these textures, that's completely fine. You can use whatever kind of road texture you want. I just personally like this one. It works very well for what we're doing, and overall it just seems to work the best for me. So all I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of making this road a little less glossy so it's not so shiny. I turn my sheen all the way down, I turn roughness all the way up, and I turn specular all the way down. And this is our principal BDSF. If you need, like I said, this is all covered in part 1, so I'm not going to go into too much detail, but basically color to color and choose the road PNG. Now, this is not the way we want this road to face, so I am going to go to UV editor and make sure I'm back into edit mode here. Press A to select all, and then I'm just going to press R and then type in 90 so it rotates my road. So now I have this facing the right way, and you'll see why we want it facing this way here in a minute, and you'll understand why once we get to this point. So we're done with that for now. So now we have our road texture. I'm not going to worry about making a curb just quite yet. Sorry, brain fart. And we'll get into reasons why here in a minute. But so now we can go ahead and we can get in some sort of landscape that we want to use. I like using ant landscape. You can go up into edit, go into preferences, and then under add-ons you can type in a.n.t and make sure this is enabled. Can exit out of that because mine's already enabled. So Shift A, mesh, and then down here at the bottom you'll see landscape. And go ahead and do this. Now for you, normally it's going to be it'll be this one off the start. If you want to try to use this map, by all means, go ahead. I'm gonna try to find something a little bit simpler. We don't need to go absolutely crazy here. I just kind of want to show you guys some simple rules to follow with making these on these hills and stuff. Some notes for this, just for future reference. I'll choose default again, just so you can see. You can see how there's not a lot of detail. It's kind of just clumpy, I guess you can say. It's not very detailed. So if you look here under subdivisions X and Y up here at the very top, you can change this number to something insanely high or whatever. The higher the number, the more detailed it is. So now you can see it's a lot more jagged and mountain-like. And obviously you can take this up higher and higher, but just know the higher you go, the harder it's going to be for your PC to render this out. And for it to comprehend this, and it'll also make it harder for using textures and stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna choose, we'll choose something else. And you can mess with all of this to get different effects, noise types. You can use just about anything you want to use, to be honest. Just find whatever works best for you. I'm just going to keep scrolling through until I find something that I think looks good enough for what we want. Yeah, this one will be fine. So I'm not worried about the bottom, so I'll just delete that. And now I'm going to choose the landscape that we're going to use, and I'm just going to scale this by like, we'll see what 100 looks like in comparison to the road. So we'll select our plane, that's our road, just so I can get a size comparison. Yeah, so that's a little small, so I'll scale this up by 10 times again. Now we'll do 5 times. Compare that to our road. And that looks a little better. So now we can get into how we're gonna do this. So all I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna Shift A, and then I'm gonna make a curve, and I'm gonna go to Path. And I'm gonna drag just by pressing G and Z, I'm gonna drag that up just so I can keep it where I want. I'm gonna press 7 on my numpad, so that way I can move my curve. And I'm gonna go ahead and put it somewhere in this area. And I'm gonna press numpad period to lock onto it. And I'm gonna zoom out a little bit, and we'll press tab to go into edit mode. And now we can start working on a path that we want to make. So I want to drive up onto these so we can kind of see what it looks like going up, and I'll go up and back down and just kind of squiggle it on through there. And like I said, this should work on just about any terrain. You got to be a little careful, you know, if the terrain's like insanely crazy, it may not work too well. So you just want to be mindful of that. You don't want to go absolutely crazy with the heights and stuff, because it can get a little buggy if you're not careful, or it'll take more work in the long run to get it to kind of do what you want it to do. So we'll just kind of go up here, go back down, and then we'll make something down here too. Now all I'm doing to do this is I'm just pressing E over and over again to make a new dot, and then I'm just making this path kind of follow whatever the road shape I want it to be. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and we'll just rock with that for now. So now we got our road shape. As you can see, some of it's going to go over the top of all this terrain over here, and I got a feeling it's going to be a little buggy coming over here, but we can deal with that when we get there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my road, which I'm going to go ahead and rename this just so we don't get confused. And I'm going to move the road, get it somewhat close to the start of my curve, my path, and I'm going to go into my modifiers tab under my road. I'm I'm going to click add modifier. We're going to go array. And then I'm going to minimize this for now just by using this little arrow on the left. We're going to add modifier. And we're going to go to weld. I'm going to minimize that. Go to curve. Oop. I exited that one. That's the wrong one. Add modifier. Go to curve. And that should be all we need for just right now. So I'm going to go ahead and select my curve. We're going to click NURBS path. And then we're done with this one, so I can minimize that. I'm going to open up my array again, go to fixed count and change that to curve. Again, select NURBS path. So now you can see we kind of have the road. It's kind of following this, but it's a little weirdly shaped. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press G and try to move this a little bit. Basically, all I'm doing is I'm focusing on that little yellow dot right here. And I'm just trying to line that up as best I can and get this road looking as good as I can. So about right there looks pretty good. Yep, I'd say that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to select my NURBS path, and I'm just going to set that on top of the road. Hover it above the road a little bit, just to keep it simple so I can see both separated. So now with the NURBS path selected, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here to this data. And up here you will see twist method. We want to go ahead and select that, click Z up. And basically what that is going to do is it's going to prohibit the road from twisting and turning and, you know, twisting on itself. So that way the road is always up, basically. So now, while we're still under NURBS path, we're going to go into the modifiers. And we are going to add a shrink wrap modifier. Now this is where it gets kind of tricky, so make sure you pay attention here. Under wrap method, we're going to go to project. That way it projects onto this. We're going to click the negative button as well, and then we're going to press Z. Now under target, we're going to select our landscape. So now you should see this down here on top of our landscape. Okay, so now I'm just going to go up here to this little drop down arrow, and I'm going to click apply. So now you can see our road is buggy, but it is inside the mountain now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the road, and I'm going to press G and Z to raise it up. We're just going to set it right there, just like that. And now you can see it's more on top of the mountain, but as you can see, it's still really, really buggy. Now, a lot of that is because we don't have any depth to our road. It's literally just a plane. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to minimize the array, just so we don't have to worry about that right now. And I'm going to add another modifier, and we are going to add a solidify modifier, and we're just going to drag this up a little bit, and we're going to move our offset just a little bit, and now you can see that our road actually has a little bit of thickness to it, which is what we want. So now that we're here, you can see our road is still facing up. It's not twisting or turning really weird. And it is also matching the side of this cliff, or whatever you would like to call it. So yeah, so now we're getting it on top of the mountain. So I'm going to go ahead and try to fix some of this bugginess. Now you have two ways of doing this. You can either keep adding on thickness and just keep going until it goes away, but I don't really like to do that if I can avoid it. I want to try to keep my road thickness relatively normal. So what you can do is you can go back into your NURBS path, and we can press tab, and we can open up our editing again. So like right here, I can see that it's really buggy. So I'm going to click both of these by shift clicking and selecting both. Now I can press GZ, and I can raise this up a little bit and get that out of the ground. And then same thing here, shift Z, or shift and click those, and then press shift and click, and then G and Z to raise that up. This is a little buggy, so GZ again, raise that up. This is buggy, GZ, raise that up a little bit. Now I can see that this is still a little buggy, so I'm gonna raise these. GZ there. Now you can see I'm starting to lift off the ground a little bit, which is okay. Obviously it's not ideal, but unfortunately there's certain times when you get into really tight situations like that where you kind of just have to either figure out a way around it, or your other option is to build like a fill this up and kind of cover this, which hopefully if I can get this to work properly after this, I can show you a way to get around this. So we'll just keep going, keep fixing all these little buggy spots. Don't worry too much right now about if it's sticking out a little bit. It's okay. I'll show you how we can get around that. So all of this spot right here is a little laggy, so I'm going to control click to select multiple at the same time, and we're going to GZ, raise that up a little bit. And what you can do too, if you want to add in a little bit of a actually it doesn't work with this one, that's okay. So GZ, and if it's just like something like this where it's really buggy, every time you move this, it also moves the road with it too. So if you can't get it to work properly, then you can always just press 7, go back in here again, and you can always just kind of move this off of the really glitchy spots and get it away from it, just to try to help the situation a little bit. Or if you get any bad road clipping, you can do that as well. Bring that down, bring this one down, and then we'll bring this one down. Yeah, so it's okay if it clips in just a tiny bit, but I'm a little OCD about it, so I'm going to take that off. And now you can see there's a little bit of texture issue right here where you can kind of see it clipping into itself. So I'm going to move this. I'm going to press 7, and then I'm going to move this over just to get rid of some of that breaking in that corner. And so yeah, so now we have this road set, and we can kind of go over something that can be very finicky, I guess would be the word for it, but we'll try to get this to work. So we're going to go back into our road, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to leave the solidify modifier. I'm going to leave that. I'm not going to touch that. But I'd say our road's done. I like the way our road's set, and I don't feel like I'm going to change it after this. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to apply the top 3, the weld, the array, and the curve. I'm going to go ahead and apply these the same way we did earlier. So notice now, if I go back into my NURBS path and I press tab to edit, it no longer moves my road. So make sure you do not apply those until you are okay with your path of your road and you're done completely changing these to where you want them. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to click into our landscape, and we're going to add a modifier. We're going to go to shrink wrap, and we're going to leave it on near surface point on surface, and now we're just going to select our road target. Now you can see it attaches to the road, but it completely gets rid of our entire map. So we're going to go ahead, we can play with offset. Usually that's not going to give you anything good, so we'll just set that back to 0. And we're going to go to project, see if that helps, which it looks like it did. So now if I were to zoom in up here, you can see it kind of works. So what we're going to do is we're going to minimize this. We're going to go to add modifier, and we're going to add in a subdivision surface, and we're going to drag that above the shrink wrap. So now you can see it looks a little better, and we can up the levels. Now you can see it's covering a little more over here. Right, so this area I definitely should have done a little bit better job of moving down. But this is one of those ways that you can work with. So you can keep adding more and more, but just know that the more you add, once again, same thing, the glitchier this is going to get. So just bear that in mind, be very careful. But you can see that now it lifts up. So what you can do here too is you can use I forget what this is called, proportional editing, thank you. And you can G and Z, and then you can scroll this out to affect more land, and you can raise this up. Now it's getting a little laggy because our viewport is really high, so we're going to turn that down a little bit. Select this, GZ, raise that up a little bit, and then we'll select that one, bring that back down, get that away from the road. And you can do this all along the road. You can do that, raise that up a little bit, make sure it's not glitching in. Select this one, GC. We're going to minimize that a little bit. And you can do this all the way around the edge of this road, and it would help clean this up. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick, and I will get back to you guys as soon as I am done with it. Alright, so now we are back to where we were. I've kind of cleaned up some of these spots a little bit. Actually, it looks like I missed a tiny spot, so we're going to go ahead and fix that real quick. Bring that down. Okay. So I've kind of cleaned this up a little bit. And just basically went around, did exactly like I was talking about, just using proportional editing a little bit, bringing up these little spots, trying to clean it up as best I can. I'm just making this for your guys' sake, so I'm not too worried about the end result here. I'm just trying to give you guys an idea of what to do. And you guys can give yourself some shortcuts and make this as clean or as simple as you want to. I'm just trying to go through this, kind of show you guys the steps to it, and you guys can make it however you'd like it. But for this purpose, I'm just going to call this okay. If we look into rendered and we zoom in, you can see that there's no buggy spots. It looks buggy until you move and it goes away. So, yeah. So with that being said, now we can go ahead and move on to the next step. So we have our road done, so now we can texture this however we want. I'm just going to throw on a random texture because, like I said, I'm not worried about what this kind of looks like. But if you're proficient with Blender as it is and you know some extra steps for this, you can use like texture painting, weight painting, and get some pretty cool effects to make, not just one bland texture. But I'm going to find just a dirt texture for now. Call that good. Sheen tint down, specular down, roughness up. And we're going to go ahead and exit that. And now you can see that we kind of have this in here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete our NURBS path. We no longer need that. And I'm going to click into our road, and I'm just going to make a little landing area for us here. So I'm going to do this, zoom in so I can see it a little better. Shift select this, and I'm going to press 7, extrude this out, and we'll move it a little bit further out. And then come down here, shift select this, and then shift select to unselect that one. Press F7 to go, or 7 to go up top on the numpad. We'll extrude this back out. Okay, so now we have that. So we have a little landing area for people to take off at. Exit out of that by pressing tab, go back into object mode, and then I'm going to hold shift, and then I'm going to right click here. I'm going to open up my CarX mod tools, and I'm going to go ahead and put in a spawn. The spawn's still kind of weird. I find it's usually best to just press R and then rotate it on the Z axis at 90 degrees. Usually that puts me facing the right way, but not always. Sometimes it's just, you got to play with it a little bit to make it work the way you want. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to change this. I have my folder named part 2, so I'm going to name this part 2. And I'm going to go ahead and set the path I want. I put it in here, CarX, and then part 2. And we're going to go ahead and select export. And we're going to go ahead and export. Well, actually, we're going to add one more thing in. We're going to add some trees around the edge of our road here, just to try to cover up some of the ugliness that I know this map is right now. Because like I said, we're not worried about adding in anything super fancy. We're just literally trying to just do the bare minimum here. So I'm going to go ahead and right click that. And I'm going to go ahead and import an OBJ, a wavefront OBJ. And I will have this once again in the in a folder for you guys to download. And for some reason it's all the way over here. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to press 7 just so I can get it moved over to where I want it. We're going to lock in on it. And we're going to GZ, bring that up. Now, in my case, it's already textured for some reason. I'm surprised it is textured, to be honest. But for that, you just go down here into material and you can just select the PNG that's there with it. And you guys can move that. So, all right, future me here. I realized I forgot to mention too, after you set your trees up and you make them the way you want them, and you get that PNG selected as your base color, make sure you scroll down at the bottom of material properties and under blend mode, make sure that's an alpha blend. Okay, I forgot to mention that, so I figured I'd just pop back in and make sure I put that in there for you. Okay, back to the video. So I'm going to press G and I'm going to press Shift Z so it doesn't move off the Z axis. And I'm going to go ahead and just set it right next to the road. Now, this is where things can get a little tricky. Now, you can absolutely just Shift D and duplicate this. But especially if you're running on a lower end PC, or you don't have like a 40 series GPU, like I'm fortunate to have the 4070 Ti. If you have like a lower end, then I definitely do not recommend you Shift D to duplicate. At least not like this, because what's going to end up happening is it's going to get very, very hardware intensive whenever you go to export this. So what I recommend you do instead is, if you press on this and you press Control G, you're creating a new collection. So I'm going to call this trees. And now what happens is whenever you go to duplicate this, actually, okay, so sorry for the jump cut here. Basically, when you go to duplicate this tree, it's going to be hardware intensive. We've gone over that. So the way around that is you Control G and you make the new collection, trees. Now, when you press Shift A, you can go down here to collection instance, and we're going to make it trees. Okay. Now you can see that we have these instances. So now when I go through, I can Shift D to make the new tree, and that would be far less intensive on your PC than it would be otherwise. And I'm going to move this down just a little bit, just so we don't see the bottom of that. And now you can just Shift D trees everywhere. Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, Shift D, and just keep doing this through the whole map. Right? And we just keep making trees and keep putting them along. And I will be back as soon as I am done doing that. Alright, so I now have all these trees placed around. And so now we're good to just kind of see what the map looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and get my CarX map tools, and we're going to export map. Might take a minute. And then export extra data. Minimize that. And let's see. Yep, so we have all this in here now. And I'm going to go ahead and copy these. And we're just going to go ahead and put them in here. And so now we can go ahead and copy part 2. And we're going to open up our CarX directory wherever yours is. I know where mine is, so I'm just going to find that real quick. Go to Common, CarX Drift Racing, ZML, Mods, CanBase, and then Maps. Just Control V, put part 2 in there. So now we can go ahead and load up CarX. Alright. This way. We'll just go into single player. Drift, choose a random map. Load this. I think I bugged it out. Go ahead and stop this. Now we'll load up part 2. And now let's see what the map looks like. There might be a few small bugs here and there, but that's alright. We'll figure them out as we go along. So far, so good. No major bugs. Alright, now we're starting to go up the hill. It's all looking pretty good. Going back down. Ooh, we're good. It's a little bumpy. That's sharp. There we go. And there we go. And like I said, it's one of those things where I'm just making this quickly. You guys can obviously spend the time to adjust around the edges of your road to be a little more smooth to the sides of the road so there's not such a big gap there. You know, I'd say all in all, this is pretty smooth. That one little spot's a little bumpy. I'd have to go back and fix that. But yeah, I'd say for the most part, you know, this came out fairly good. What you can do to kind of get rid of some of those bumps is you can add a subdivision surface or subdivision modifier just to try to smooth that road out in those spots like that as best you can. But yeah, I'd say this map is pretty well done. You guys got the basics now, and take it, run with it, and make whatever adjustments you guys want. But I'd say other than that, you know, this is a successful undertaking for the most part. A few little bugs here and there, but I'd say overall it's pretty good. If you guys want, my Discord is going to be in the description. If you have any questions, you guys can reach out to me on Discord there. I'll also have Discord for my server. I'll throw that up there as well. You guys can join in there if you guys have any questions, want to hang out, whatever. I'll try to spend a little bit of time in there whenever I can. Yeah, so with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment, subscribe, like, all that fun stuff, and reach out if you have any questions. And I hope you guys enjoy the map making.